Hello and welcome to another installment of the Wizard Kid podcast. I'm Autumn. Josh is here with me as usual, and today we're going to
We
be
also
looking at
have
the
a dog.
chapters. Oh yes, clearly. Today we're going to be looking at the chapters Halloween and Quidditch. Very short titles there. So let's get into it, I suppose. We have our notes here.
I like starting out with the little book differences that I've totally not just copied off of a website. So for just terminology changes, there's Halloween having an apostrophe in British and not in American.
That's actually not very common.
I do
It might have
remember.
been something that phased. Like I've never really seen it very much. I spell it like that personally because I think it's cool. But most people I know just write it without the apostrophe.
Yeah, I remember talking about that before. Whenever I see it that way, I always want to call it like Halloween. It's just like weird. So Quidditch field turned into Quidditch, or I'm sorry, pitch turned into field, because nobody in America understands what cricket is. They had to change rounder's bat into short baseball bat.
Oh, really? Huh. I mean, rounders is
Then,
not exactly the same thing as cricket. It's just similar.
oh, I figured that was part of it. Okay, never mind
No.
then. Well, either way, it proves my point. Um, Here's a personal favorite of mine: jacket potato became baked potato.
Yeah, I noticed that one.
I still think jacket potato is a hilarious name, and I will continue
There's
to poke
nothing
fun of
wrong
it
with it.
whenever
It's
I
like a
can.
potato that's still wearing its jacket. Because normally when you make something with a potato, most people at least remove the skin, right? But this is the thing, it's baked in the skin, and then it bursts open. It looks like it's wearing like a jacket.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nobbled turned into clobbered. I had never heard of nobbled before.
What was this in reference to?
I think it was somebody getting hit with a bludger bat, maybe? Let me actually see. Seekers are always the ones who get blank by the other team.
Uh,
Apparently it is nobbled in the original version.
let's see.
And then
Is it in Halloween or in Quidditch?
I think it's in Quidditch. Yeah, it is. A few pages in. But anyway, much less interesting is just changing room became locker room.
Yeah.
Don't know why they felt they
see
needed
it.
to change that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, actually, no, this one's even more questionable. Because I like the other ones, I can understand. Like, yeah, we don't say jacket potato or rounder's bat or that kind of stuff. But here they changed. Ron was in a very bad temper by the end of the class. They changed temper to
Bad
mood.
mood.
Yeah, like we know what temper means. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, I guess maybe to an American ear it would sound like he was angry. Whereas it's more generally a bad mood is what it's trying to, because I think a bad temper or like a bad temperament at the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose. There's one other one that's a more major change because they actually added in a couple sentences, but I'll bring it up when we get to that point.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty minor still, but you actually did make a note on it, so I figured we'll wait.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, Wizard Kid has a boss fight.
Um, yeah, I mean, let's see. It starts out with them basically talking about the encounter they had at the end of the previous chapter. And they're like, oh man, that was such a cool adventure. We should do it again sometime. And Hermione's like, you guys are fucking stupid.
Yeah, I did like that because as the books go on, they keep getting into these dangerous situations and aren't
They treat
real.
them more seriously.
Yeah, they're not really thrill seekers, but in this one, it's just like, oh man, that was so cool. I can't wait until we find something else like that.
I think that's more an indicator of tone than it is character, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe. And so yeah, right after that, Hermione basically just completely refuses to speak to Harry and Ron, and they're just like, "Oh, well, good. We don't want her anyway." And it's like, it's just so weird to me. Like you kept mentioning before, how it's surprising how far it goes into this book before Hermione becomes
Yeah,
like
we're
the
we're
third.
over halfway through at this point in page count.
Yeah, it's just like it's so weird how like she isn't just like a minor annoyance. They like kind of actively hate her, or at least Ron does.
Right.
And it's weird how it turns around so quickly, but we'll see that at the end of the chapter. So yeah, they're having breakfast or whatever, and then some owls
Owl's just
deliver.
fucking-
Yeah, they drop a long, thin package, And in the movie, it's like very obviously broom shaped, where they just kind of like threw some wrapping paper over it, and they're like, "I wonder what it is." It's like, really, guys? In the book, it doesn't describe it. It just says it's a long, thin package. So I imagine it's just kind of like a big rectangular box. So it's like
Maybe.
probably still a little bit suspicious, but like at least it's not extremely obvious.
Right.
But I love how they drop this on the table, and the fact that they just drop it on and they're like knocking shit over in the process. But then like immediately they drop a letter onto it, which Harry happens to open first by chance, and it's like, don't open this package at the table. It's like, then why'd you send it to him? Like,
Yeah.
give it to him at like between classes or something.
This is what we call contrivance, because if you think about it in a meta sense, it's like, why did she make him get it here? She could just had him get it elsewhere. And it's like, oh, so Malfoy can see it, so
Yeah,
that they
pretty
can
much.
have the scene afterwards. But it's kind of contrived, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, as we go through this series, there's going to be hundreds of, like, why did X happen? Because it advanced the plot. But it was
Right.
stupid, though. And it's like, it's going to be the same answer every time, but I just kind of like making fun of them. So, I don't know if there's really going to be much to say about this one, but I like the line where they open up the broom and Ron's like admiring it, and he's like, I've never even touched one. And for some reason that line stood out to me because it sounds like such a stupid thing to say, but I think it's relatable. I feel like, at least for me, I used to always have this like, the best example I can give is when the Wii came out. I didn't even want to touch the controller, like Harrison had one. I didn't want to touch it until I had my own, because I'm like, no, it has to be like a special moment when I finally
I
have
can kind
it.
of get that. Yeah.
And with my beanie collection, it's like I'm getting these old ones that I had only ever seen in magazines years ago, and now I'm finally holding them, and it's like a cool feeling to have this rare thing. So it's I kind of get that. Have you
Yeah.
ever felt anything like it?
I think so. I can't think of any specific examples, but yeah, it makes sense to me. And we've got Draco bullying Ron for this.
Yeah, Draco's just once again being a dick. He's like, you're gonna get it this time. First years can't have broomsticks. It's like,
Oh, I don't even mean that. I'm talking about with Ron, where he's like, "Oh, I bet you have to like save up twigs or whatever," basically making fun of the
Right.
Weasleys for being poor. And I wanted to kind of go on a little bit of a tangent for that. I can't remember if we talked about this before, but I I find it interesting how my reality has like differed so much with the I don't know what you'd call it, just the collective narrative of like when it comes to bullying, like in stories and stuff, in
Yeah.
books and movies. You know, the bullies are always like making fun of people for being, fat or nerdy or wearing glasses or being poor or things like that. And like, I mean, to be fair, I didn't really get bullied in general, but on the rare occasions where something like that was happening or where I saw it with other people, it always seemed to just be a kind of generic intimidation. Like,
what do you
I
mean
don't
by
really
that?
know how to, like, just, just being in, like, standing around, being intimidating, like, pushing people around, trying to block them from going places, like,
Okay.
by being physically intimidating. And I never really saw much in the way of, like, and you're fat, and you're a fucking nerd. Like, I didn't see any of that. It always seemed, like, too cartoony to be real, and I didn't see it. So.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of media kind of exaggerates bullies or just doesn't write them well. Where it's just you have like, well, we gotta have something to be an antagonist to this kid who's in school, so we'll just put in this asshole who just makes fun of him constantly. And it's like most people don't act like that, but I have experienced a very small bit of it. I was never really bullied either, but there was like a year where there were basically just these two guys that would always pick on me on the bus, and
Yeah, I think
they
you told this
they
story.
wouldn't even like they wouldn't even do it directly to me. They would just be like sitting near me and then just kind of like make fun of me in conversation while talking to each other while I was right there. It was really weird.
see.
And it was usually just that I'm fat and like, oh man, look at him sitting over there. He's not even talking to anybody. What a loser. And there was like this one other asshole who felt the need to like also pick on me for being fat while I was in gym. I think it lasted like a few weeks, and then he just kind of probably got bored of it.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
There was like one time when somebody was, I guess, trying to be mean to me. I think I was in the library for some reason. It's not like it wasn't like an instance of me going there often. I think I just had to go there for something. And I was leaving, and some girl was like, "Excuse me," and tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around, and she's like, "Excuse me, you're fat." And I'm like, I know.
Thank you.
And I turned around and left.
Yeah, what the hell? I'm trying to think. There was like one other thing. This wasn't really a case of bullying that actually existed, but more just the threat of it. Between second and third grade, I got I had to change schools because I was part of the magnet program, which is like the gifted program, and they basically just kind of like gathered up kids from the schools in the area and moved them all to this other school where they could be in the same class. And they said that while we were kind of in orientation for that, the teachers said specifically just be aware that like sometimes like other kids that are not in the magnet class might bully you over this, and it's common for them to say like the magnet maggots or something, and it's like, you know, you just got to get over that. And I was surprised that they brought this up, and then it never happened the 4 years that I was in that until like the last year. I think I heard like one person say one kind of like derisive comment. It was really weird.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I guess everybody's got different bullying experiences. It's just it's one of those things where...
Feel free to trauma dump in the comment. No, please don't. if you want, I guess. I don't know.
Also, I meant to say this when we started out, but please don't leave 50 comments. You know who you are. Like, I don't know how to say this politely, but it's just try to
have a bit more of a filter on like what is like important enough to leave in a comment, and maybe condense it to, you know, one or two.
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you leave one or two comments, I'll usually at least glance at them. Maybe if I don't read the entire thing all the way through, I'll at least kind of skim it. If you're going to leave 50 comments, nobody is going to read that. It's just annoying. It takes up space. It's like, oh, wow, this video has 60 comments, and they're all from the same person. It's just, right. please stop.
Yeah. Okay. So, tangent over. We get some Ron sass in response. Harry bolting his dinner.
Yeah, okay, so what was the Ron sass again? It was,
he said it to Draco, I think. No, it was to Hermione, actually. I think Hermione was just like...
Oh, she's...
Oh, yeah. I thought you weren't speaking to us, said Harry. Yes, don't stop now, said Ron. It's doing us so much good. Hermione must have
we're
those in the air.
Not going to be tracking Ron sass, but yeah,
no,
it definitely exists. So yeah, I wrote down he bolted his dinner that evening because I'd never heard of the word bolted in that context before. To me, like, bolting means...
Is running fast?
Yeah, like, pretty much.
I guess in this case it's just doing something fast.
Well, I looked it up, and apparently it like, that is a separate definition of just, like, eating quickly. And I'd never heard of it. And that doesn't seem to be a British thing, so I'm not counting that as a Britishism.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I wrote here how, like, it says that he ate it so fast that he didn't even know what it was, and then I was like, oh, I wonder what it was.
His mystery dinner is the key to everything. Yes.
Yes.
Maybe it was steak and kidney pie.
God. And then we have in his thoughts, he's thinking about Muggle children instead of just saying like kids.
Yeah, and it's in reference to the Quidditch field. He mentions the hoops. They look like the plastic wands that Muggle children blow bubbles with. It's like, you've been only in this wizarding society for like 2 months. Like, I don't know. It's interesting to see him already making that separation.
It's interesting because, like, I don't know. I mean, obviously you get the plastic ones. Before there was like plastic and things like that, because I don't know if Muggles really... No, they do make stuff out of plastic sometimes, right? God, I don't
Oh,
know.
wizards. I thought you were like, what? Muggles make stuff up less. I'm like, yeah, but I'm sure they must. It's for some stuff. I
Hmm.
can't think of any immediate examples, but if I stopped and like looked at a list of
I guess sweet packets.
magical items
No, they could be wooden. They cardboard, I suppose.
or just
That was
paper
like,
wrappers, but
yeah. I don't know then. Whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just found it weird how he assumes that wizard kids don't do that. Wizard kids don't do this as well. I don't know.
So, as for Quidditch, we have a whole chapter about Quidditch later, but we can talk about the stuff that's introduced in this chapter at least.
Yeah.
So, I guess let me point out the specific ones I have, and then we can get into other things.
Sure. I mean, the whole thing is kind of incredibly stupid in the first place. This has been discussed.
So I've never really hated Quidditch. Like I don't love reading about it, but for me it's just it's fine.
I'm kind of ambivalent as well. But the sport itself does not really make a lot of
it's
sense.
pretty bad. So yeah, as far as what happens in this chapter specifically, Wood's introducing him to the game, which I thought was weird because like Ron has been talking about Quidditch all the time, and you'd think that Harry would have understood the rules by now, but it sounds like he is learning this for the first time from Wood.
It's possible that Ron was just talking about players and matches and stuff.
Maybe. Because there's this whole scene where he's just like, this is the quaffle, we have 3 chasers, blah, blah, blah. And Harry's like repeating everything back verbatim to like really cement it in his head like what all this is. And I noticed specifically like it's weird that they're writing this. It's almost like they're making him repeat it back because the repetition will help the readers remember it, and it just seemed like overly convenient. But I don't know. So they go through all the rules of the game, which we don't need to talk about, and at one point he says is like the Weasley twins are the beaters on our team, and they'll keep you safe from the Bludgers. They're like a pair of human Bludgers themselves. Like, what the hell is that supposed to mean?
I mean, I guess just that they fly around wildly and they're super strong. And
I guess I wasn't. I was almost like, so like the point of the Bludger is to like get in the way and like hurt you basically. And
I don't
it's
think
like,
that's what they meant. I think they just meant, they whiz around and...
Maybe. Okay, so you have something about the Snitch specifically?
Yeah, so, like... I don't want to be like a pedantic bitch, but here's the sitch. Does the Snitch just never glitch out and ditch the Quidditch pitch until it gets caught by a wizard or witch, or whichever they are? Do they just bewitch
Was that intentional? Did you write
Yes.
that? Oh my god. I was like... The first couple times, I'm like, oh, that was unintentional rhyme. Okay, it's still happening. Okay, do it again.
I don't want to be a pedantic bitch, but here's the sitch. Does the Snitch just never glitch out and ditch the Quidditch pitch until it gets caught by a wizard or witch, or whichever they are? Or do they bewitch it?
Oh my god.
I had to. I'm sorry. I started writing the note, and there were like 3 unintentional rhymes in there, and I'm like, okay,
You gotta
I've
make
got to
it
just
worse,
stretch this
yeah.
to its limit. Yeah. There's a line in BA3 that has a similar kind of energy to it.
I was actually just thinking that, and I was tempted to quote it, but no. As for an actual answer to that, I think yes, but I don't know if you were looking.
Yeah,
for
they
one.
probably keep it within the pitch.
So
I figured. I had to say that.
So I guess let's discuss the stupidity of Quidditch. So, the main thing that everybody makes fun of it for is that the scoring system is stupid because the Seeker getting 150 points just completely overrules everything else.
Right, and it's the only way to end the game, right? So
it's like, yeah.
If you're losing, you're only if you're losing by enough points that the Snitch won't make a difference, you're actually incentivized to not catch it and to fucking delay until you catch up.
Right.
If you even can.
So, to play devil's advocate, even though I do think that it's a stupid system, the way that the Hogwarts games go, at least, is it's all point-based. So, like, every game a team is going to get 150 points no matter what. But then like the other points do still matter towards the ranking, and so it's like it's still unbalanced, but there's still like
Wait, what do you mean the
incentive.
ranking? Like for the whole season?
Yeah, because
I see.
like there's a year, I think it might be in third year, where it's like Harry cannot catch the snitch unless they're at least X number of points up, or otherwise they'll win the match but still lose the tournament. And so
I
like
see.
there is still a point to the scoring, but
Right.
it's just it is really unbalanced. And so like the main thing that everybody always says, which is probably true if not just straight up confirmed, is that it was written this way because J.K. Rowling needed Harry to be like able to single-handedly win the game, just to give him like that
Probably, yeah.
glory. So she just wrote in this thing that's like completely unbalanced. And the in-universe explanation is that when the sport was first developed,
Oh
it
yeah, it didn't have snitches, right? It was just
yeah, it was just the scoring and the bludgers, and then it was a tradition that formed due to like a game where somebody released a bird into the field and then said like whoever catches it will win 150 galleons. And for some reason this just kind of like caught on as like an interesting gimmick, and it just became adopted as part
part
of
of
the
the
game.
game. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of dumb. When we get to specific Quidditch matches, we can point out
Right.
some of the issues with it. Like the World Cup one with Crumb catching it and then still losing is just so bad. But I will not go into that much detail on it because unlike the Potterless guy, I am not into sports, so I don't have like all this knowledge of like what makes good fundamentals and all that crap. So whatever, you can listen to that if you want to hear people bitch about Quidditch.
I've also heard people like interpret Harry as being a jock because he plays a sport, and like I feel like that's a pretty inaccurate interpretation of his character, especially
Yeah,
early on. Maybe a little bit more later on, but even then, not really. He's kind of like an average all-rounder.
yeah, I would say that's true.
I even knew some kids that played like football at my school or soccer for Americans. That I would like. Some of them were jocks, but some of them weren't really. They were more well-rounded types of students. I don't know.
Yeah,
Also, we don't really have a conception of like, there's no, like over there, pursuing sport as like your main thing actually has like a purpose because you can get like sports-based scholarships. That's not a thing over here. So it's only really for the fun of the sport. There's no like sense of like pursuing that at the cost of
oh
your
yeah, and
academics
getting like
to get a scholarship.
ridiculously serious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I showed you the schools that I went to, and you're just looking at like, you're like, good God, the freaking like football field and like all this stuff around
Yeah.
the school. It's like, you know, the gigantic stands around it and like the
Yeah, it was insane.
school logo painted in the middle of this thing, and you're like, what the hell? And I look at yours, and there's
Yeah,
just like, you
it's
know,
seriously
it's
big.
like like a playground, and that's it. But
Well, no, we did have a field for sports and stuff, but and also for just being in during the summer break, like not summer break, but during break times near summer. But like it was nowhere near as big, and it was basically just a normal field with hardly anything in it.
right. There was one other thing I want. Oh yeah, just so one thing that kind of bothers me. I never really thought about this until it was pointed out to me, but these like each house has one team of 7 players, and that's it. There's
Hmm.
like you'd think there would be like a rotating roster or like multiple different tournaments going on so like more people could play if they wanted to, because it's
Um,
kind of shitty like if people want to play and they can't get into the 7 coveted spots, you're just out of luck,
yeah, I
especially
mean,
since as I point out later, most of this team is really young, and it's weird that they're the ones that got on the team.
I suppose I'm trying to think. It's like, God, there's what 70 students per house, except the first years normally aren't supposed to be allowed, so it's functionally 60. Um,
Yeah,
so it's a little over 10% of the players can get in, and I mean, I don't know what percentage of kids are normally interested in a specific sport, but if this is like the only wizarding sport, and it really seems like it is very popular, and
Yeah,
most
they never mention any
people are into
others.
it.
Like, at best, we just have other hobbies like gobstones and stuff.
I wonder if like if when the pitch is either empty or when people are practicing, if randos are allowed to just fly in and just like throw around and play casually or not.
That would be nice, but knowing the school, probably not.
So then we have a transition into Charms class with Professor Flitwick.
Yeah, he's teaching Wingardium Leviosa.
This is a really random note, but I seem to recall that Flitwick randomly changed actors in the third movie.
Yeah, he does. And he becomes like a weird conductor.
Yes.
I didn't understand what was up with that. But
It's like this weird greasy hair that sticks to his head instead of like
yeah.
fluffy white wizardy hair.
Okay, so yeah, what's up with Wizard Barufio or Barufio?
That was just something mentioned in the... Yeah, here we go.
No, I mean I know what it is. I'm
Okay.
letting you.
Right, so I'm confused. Okay, here's the line, and maybe you guys will notice before I explain it what the problem is, or like what I'm confused about. Swish and flick, remember? Swish and flick, and saying the magic words properly is very important too. Never forget Wizard Barufio, who said S instead of F, and found himself on the floor with a buffalo on his chest. Like, what?
There's many stupid statements in this one sentence.
So, Wizard Barufio, is this the person's name? Is their first name Wizard? Because if so, that's stupid. If not, why are they being referred to as Wizard Barufio? Like, we don't call people like Wizard Harry and Wizard Seamus.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't get that at all.
this is extremely bizarre to me. And also S instead of what? Like, instead of what F? There's no F in Wingardium Leviosa. Is this just a different spell he was doing, and this is like a well-known incident in the Wizarding world or something?
I think it actually is. I looked it up, and I looked up for a couple reasons. I wanted to see if this was a one-off character. It is just barely not, and it's debatable if he's not, because in the fifth book, when they're studying for the OWLs, there's like a bunch of students that were trying to sell like quick ways of like getting smarter, and there's something that's like Barufio's brain potion or something.
Oh. Okay.
I forget exactly what it's called, but something like that. And so yeah, when I looked that up on the wiki, there's no further context given for this, but it's basically like accepted that this was just a well-known incident of somebody who apparently had a speech impediment, who like missaid their spell, and this happened, and it's like, don't let this happen to you. And,
Right.
but yeah, the fact that his name sounds like Buffalo and that he ends up with a buffalo
Yeah,
on his chest is also like oddly coincidental. Because it's like the way that it's explained, it almost sounds like, don't say buffalo instead of this, or else you'll end up with it on your chest. But that's not what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so weird.
Yeah, like Barusio would not... That doesn't make sense. God, I don't know.
So, yeah, they're in the class practicing the charm.
We have the iconic Wingardium Leviosa.
And I find it interesting how everybody's struggling with this. It's kind of odd how picky it is. But, yeah, there's a scene where Seamus, like, pokes at the feather with his wand and it just catches on fire, which in the movie there's a thing where like he is saying joke, right? he says the spell wrong or something, and then there's just like an explosion, and it turns into a running gag throughout the movies to such a degree that I'm pretty sure in Deathly Hallows Part 2 there's a part where like McGonagall specifically like calls on him like in the battle because he's like so good at making things blow up. And I'm pretty sure this is a movie only running gag. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out on this and see if he has a tendency to actually set stuff on fire. You didn't even realize he did
it here either, right?
No. I read that and I'm like, oh, maybe this did come from something. Like,
God. So pretty soon after Charms class, we have Harry helping himself to a jacket potato when Quirrell very suddenly comes in and does his iconic feint, which is like, it's like 2 seconds into the scene. Like, I swear to God, they mention how they heard that Hermione's in the bathroom crying or whatever. They were going to the Great Hall like, wow, this is so cool, jacket potato, troll in the dungeon! Just immediately.
Yeah, and actually, I didn't even write this one down, but I did like, they get out of the class, and Ron's just being like a complete ass. He's just like, it's no wonder she doesn't have any friends. She's such a nightmare. And then she runs off crying, and they're like, oh, well, anyway, they're like, should we feel bad about this? Oh, it's kind of a shame. Hey, oh, look, pumpkins and bats. Like, and then just get distracted by that face.
I guess kids are assholes. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
It is funny, though.
So yeah, Quirrell runs in, dies. Very different book.
And then, let's see.
Yeah, you have a note here that I have a response to about Snape going to the 3rd floor.
Yeah, I can't remember. Did they just see him going up there? Or yeah, that's right. Yeah, on their way to the bathroom to rescue Hermione, they see Snape heading up to the 3rd floor. And so I assume that for a first-time reader, this is supposed to basically just add fuel to the fire that Snape is suspicious and he's the one after the thing, especially because Harry and Ron start to believe it after this.
Right.
But obviously knowing better that he's not after the stone and that he's actually trying to stop whoever's going there, I have to wonder, like, did he encounter Quirrell up there? And if so, like, obviously Voldemort is on the back of Quirrell's head. Would Voldemort not have seen that Snape was betraying him by preventing him from doing this instead of cooperating? And you said that apparently this is explained at the start of Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah, it is. So, so for all we see in this book, not knowing anything about, like, later character motivations or whatever, it's just, we assume Quirrell goes to the corridor because he lets the troll in to create a distraction. Snape goes after him, and then, like, I don't know, like, I guess Snape gets attacked by the dog or whatever. Quirrell probably also does. I don't know. But, we find out in Half-Blood Prince, there's, like, it's the 2nd chapter where Bellatrix and Narcissa are basically interrogating him. He says that all he knew of Quirrell at that point was that he was just kind of a mediocre wizard and thought that he was going after the stone, like, on his own, and didn't even realize that Voldemort was involved. Okay. And now at this point he's also, of course, pretending to still be on, like, the dark side here, and it's like he's playing the role of, like, my true loyalty is the Dark Lord, and I'm just a spy, like, spying on Dumbledore or whatever. But then he like, the way he explains it is just like, if I had known that this was actually the case, then, like, I wouldn't have stopped him, and he could have gotten his body back, like, 3 years earlier, so it's a shame I didn't know. And he basically, like, I think he says, like, Voldemort most likely saw Snape still working at the school and figured that, like, he had gone over to Dumbledore's side and just there was no interaction at all.
Interesting.
And as far as Snape going after Quirrell in the first place, there's also a little callback to that at the one of the final chapters of Deathly Hallows, where they do the Snape's memories, where it's just Snape and Dumbledore are talking in their office, and there's just this little, keep an eye on Quirrell, will ya?
I see.
Which I read that and I'm just like, oh, that's a cute little moment. But
but I do have to wonder if there was an encounter between them, because if there was, there's no indication of that in particular.
Yeah, I don't know if it was ever mentioned.
Yeah. Like, Snape did get attacked by Fluffy, and I don't know if that was during this or if this was during another attempt, like, later, but before he gets, like, before the scene with Filch.
Right.
And I have things to say about that when we get to it, but...
I do too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, everybody has pointed this out, but I love the idea of there's a troll in the dungeons. Everybody back to your common rooms. Slytherins, go to the dungeons. Like, that's some good shit. But, yeah, so reading through this chapter, I didn't realize that there was a part where they, like, lock the troll in the bathroom and then, like, have to, and then they're like about to leave, and then they realize Hermione's in there, because that whole part's not in the movie. And
Right. It seems a little weird to me. They're like, oh no, Hermione's down in the bathroom. And they get there and they're like, aha, we've locked him in this room. What is it? Doesn't matter. Oh, it was the bathroom.
oh no. Yeah. Which it's weird because like they say, oh, there's a key in the lock. We can lock it in there.
Oh, yeah.
Why is there a key sticking out of the outside of the door to a bathroom? Like,
Yeah.
if this is
I
like,
mean, I guess any wizard could just Alohomora it anyway, but...
but I'm thinking here, like, even if this is like an old-timey building, of course, it doesn't have, like, modern locks. It has, like, the actual, like, big key stick into it. Like, you wouldn't lock a bathroom from the outside, and why would you leave the key in the door? Like, what?
I mean, to be fair, bathrooms in the UK do usually actually lock with a fucking actual key you stick in the lock. Let me just go check mine quickly, because I don't know if there's a lock on the outside.
Okay.
The keyhole actually is on both sides. Huh. I don't really want to try testing locking it right now, but...
All right. But yeah, I just thought that was weird. Also, there was a case of wheeling around. But
Yes.
yeah, you brought up a good point here of how does the 12-foot troll fit through the bathroom door?
Like, the only explanation is that it either, like, squeezed in there somehow, or that the door is big enough for it.
Yeah, I guess maybe just this place is so elaborate that every door is gigantic.
I suppose if the troll was wandering around anyway, it would have had to know how to get through these doors in the first place, so it's not particularly weird that it could go through this one as opposed to the other ones, but...
Yeah. It's just making me think of the basilisk somehow traveling through pipes in the castle and, like, coming out of toilets and shit. Like, how fucking big are these
I
pipes?
assume that this thing is either... I mean, I don't remember how big it's described to be in the book, but... if it is, as big as it is in the movie, then maybe it can just, like, compress itself, like...
To the size of a household
To the
sponge.
household sponge. Can I buy a pot from you? Yeah.
Sex box and her name is Tony. Or Sony.
Tony.
Why did I say Tony?
Tony. Tony Lozito.
Did you hear something?
Just a troll in the dungeon. So, they head in there, they try to fight it. Hermione is paralyzed. This is totally...
I have a question about a note that you have here. How sapient are trolls? They wear trousers, so surely that means they have, like, a concept of shame. Do we know that it does?
Leaps in my head. Okay, so...
I didn't actually see a mention of it wearing anything. I tried to pay attention.
It does. Harry wipes the snot from his wand onto the troll's trousers.
Oh, well, shit. I guess I missed that part. Okay, let me...
I think... Actually, let me check.
I'm checking, too.
It might have said his trousers, and I guess that could have been Harry's. Let's see.
No, it says the trolls. You're right.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Because I was prepared to go into a whole explanation here about, like, maybe this thing is like... I'm thinking of it as the way it looks in the movie, where it's very human-like, just big and ugly. And I'm just like, maybe it's not like that, and it doesn't really have much of a human anatomy. They keep saying it instead of he, so it must not have any junk flailing around. But no, it's wearing pants, so yeah, okay.
That's the thing, right? Is like, if it was just a bestial monster with no, like, higher sense of reason, basically like an ape or something, then surely it wouldn't wear pants, because why would it?
Yeah. That's an interesting question.
Because that's another thing, is we have these magical races or whatever in the story, like centaurs and goblins and all that kind of thing that, house elves even, that have, like, this whole weird dynamic with the wizarding world where they're not really directly a part of it, but kind of adjacent to it.
Right.
And I do just wonder, like, are trolls, on the same kind of, like, do they have this, like...
I don't think they are. From what I saw, I tried to look them up in the Fantastic Beasts book, and it says that, like, they just communicate by grunting, and, like, on very rare occasions they can learn a couple words.
I see.
Like, they're basically meant to be just... They basically just have no intelligence at all.
Right. Okay.
So as for why they wear clothes, I can't say.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Anyway, good sentence here of just Harry then did something that was both very brave and very stupid. I feel like that can apply to so many different situations in these books.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of.
There was also a sentence that I noted for just sounding very British, which was I wrote. Let me actually get the full context for it.
Okay, because I'm trying to find it.
Come on, where is it? Yeah, howling with pain, the troll twisted and flailed its club, with Harry clinging on for dear life. Any second, the troll was going to rip him off or catch him a terrible blow with the club. It's
kind of a weird way to phrase it, but I know what it means. Like, to catch
yeah, I mean, I
him with
get
a
it.
club and a terrible blow with it, like, hit him.
It just, I don't know, the way it was worded kind of made me laugh. And in the next chapter, we have the weird switch of perspective, but there's a very brief one here where Harry's like holding onto the troll's neck or whatever, and then it says, Ron pulled out his own wand, not knowing what he was going to do. He heard himself cry, the first spell that came into his head. It's like, how does Harry know this?
Harry know that? Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
I'm kind of just keeping an eye out for those because I feel like they're a first book only, just like artifact.
Yeah, early installment witness. We're gonna stop being able to use that excuse after a couple books. So.
Yes. Now we have Hermione's lie.
Yeah, this fucking pissed me off. They do all this shit, and then they're about to get in trouble, and Hermione's like, "It's my fault." And for half a second, because I didn't remember exactly how this went, for half a second I'm like, "Oh, okay, she's gonna explain like I was here, they came to save me." No, she's like, I wanted to go fight the troll by myself, and then she gets in trouble, but then Harry and Ron get like points in exchange. But then it's like, why did she do this in the first place? She literally could have just explained the truth. What?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I've seen other people ask this exact same question, and I was going to just kind of wait until the video and then like re-explain that, but I couldn't even remember it because I'm like, no, you're right, this is stupid. And so I looked it up. I mean, this is all just interpretation, but I'm trying to think here, like, so if she had told the truth, it's like there's the aspect of like she was crying because of them directly, which didn't necessarily need to be brought up.
She could have just said, I was in the bathroom, like I hadn't had a chance to get to the feet. She doesn't need to specify.
Yeah, and people have brought that up also. If you want to get really nitpicky, you could say, like, why are you at this one when it's so much further away from, like, the Great Hall or whatever? But whatever. Either way, like, the generally accepted answer here is just, like, she's grateful for them saving her and wants to basically make it out that, like, they were completely heroic and there was, like, nothing, like, they didn't have anything to do with it happening in the first place. Which they kind of did.
Very, very indirectly, though.
Yeah, it's more just she's taking the fall so that they can be the heroes. And did she have to take the fall? Not really, no. Like,
and I feel like this is just a trope, personally. I don't think that there was, like, necessarily more thought to this than just, like, it was an idea that came to mind and she went with it. Because, like, she isn't Rowling. Because I can't think of any specific examples, but I feel like I've seen this in other stories as well, where, like, characters will go through some kind of strange situation that isn't their fault, and then they'll, like, almost get in trouble for it. And instead of just, like, saying what happened, and in some cases it makes sense because they go through something, like, completely supernatural and paranormal that they just cannot explain to people without seeming like they're making shit up. In those cases, it's a little more understandable, but sometimes, you know, some shit happens that they could explain, but presumably just for dramatic purposes or maybe for time reasons, for like pacing or something, they just have them be like, I'm sorry, and just like take the blame, or just make up a story of them like breaking the rules when they could have just fucking explained it. I don't know.
yeah, it's a little weird. Like reading through the explanations, I kind of get it, but still it seems unnecessary. Like,
yeah.
If the story had just been like, I was in the bathroom, they realized that I wasn't at the table, they went to find me, they fought the troll. Like, nobody really had to get in trouble there. maybe it's the mindset of like in that situation they're still breaking the rules by like not following the other like maybe it's I don't even know how to word it. It's like maybe somebody has to get in trouble for the story to work, and it's like if she didn't do anything wrong, then they must have been. So she has to do something else to like take the blame off of them, which doesn't make any sense. But
No, it doesn't.
what
I
don't know.
like what really bothers me, right, is that like this is a published book. There are multiple. I mean, maybe there was. I don't know how book publishing works exactly. There's at least one editor, maybe more people looking at this. I'm surprised that nobody caught this as like, hey, this is stupid. Why does Hermione do this? And I mean, maybe they did, and there was some kind of discussion. I don't know. That's for JK and the editors to know, I guess.
But either way, that whole exchange happens. They go back up to the common room, and then we have the sentence, or the last paragraph of the
Chappie,
chapter. Yeah, from that moment on, Hermione Granger became their friend. Oh yeah, by the way, I gotta mention, up until this point, I feel like 80% of the time she's mentioned, she's Hermione Granger, first and last name. It's really weird. I don't know why they keep doing that. But yeah, so
Granger.
became their friend. There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them. To me, like that sentence always stood out as show don't
Like
tell.
a corny end of episode, like.
Kinda. Yeah, it's that. It's just it's we went from this shift of like, man, we can't fucking stand her, to like now they're friends, and like yeah, they did share this experience, but I don't think like if the idea of it is just like they saved her so she appreciates them more, that's fine, but they still didn't like her. And if we're supposed to just get the idea that now they like her because she took the fall for them, that's even stupider because of the fact that she didn't need to do that and it didn't matter. So it's like,
God, I don't know.
but yeah, it's like I've seen other people actually point that out as a bit that they really liked. I can't get into that line. It seems like I want to see. I wish there was like another chapter where they kind of like warm up to each other more. But
Yeah.
either way, status quo has changed. Hermione's part of the
Right.
group now, and I'm fine with that
Two-thirds
because
of the way into the book.
I do like her as a character. I don't know if I like her more or less than Ron. They have their ups and downs, but I'm glad that she's not annoying anymore, at least, because she was kind of annoying.
All right. So now we're on to Quidditch.
Everyone's
And-
favorite.
This is a nitpick from me, but we have where is it?
Yeah, it's like the first
Hagrid-
paragraph.
Every morning, the ground was covered in frost. Hagrid could be seen from the upstairs windows, defrosting broomsticks on the Quidditch pitch, bundled up in a long moleskin overcoat, rabbit fur gloves, and enormous beaver skin boots. How are they telling what these pelts are from up there? I guess they saw him up close once and saw what they were somehow. I don't know if I'd be able to tell what fucking pelt an animal is from.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
What animal a pelt is from.
that's a line that I can't say I particularly care about. It's like
It just
I pointed this one out to you is Madam Hooch blows her silver whistle. I'm like, why did we mention that it was silver? What an unnecessary adjective. But
Yeah.
that's kind of just what this is it's giving some flavor, and how we or Harry knows it, like, who cares? But so there's a line here that I really don't understand. So the Quidditch season had begun. On Saturday, Harry will be playing in his first match, Gryffindor versus Slytherin. If Gryffindor won, they would move up into second place in the house championship. Is this the first game? Like, because I think the way that the Quidditch Cup works in this is just every team plays every other team once. So like, if Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw have played each other, or like either of those had played Slytherin and just Gryffindor hadn't played anybody yet, then that would mean that Gryffindor is going from like 0 points to something. I don't know what situation it would put them into second place.
That is pretty weird.
Maybe there's an option where this makes sense, but it just doesn't sound right to me.
Let's see.
I guess like if let's say that like Slytherin had played against both other teams already and won both of them, and then Gryffindor beats them, so now they have one win compared to two. Could be second place, but
Maybe.
I think if all those other games had happened, we would have heard about it. Maybe not like
I don't know.
it was just a weird line.
It is weird. You're right. I didn't notice that.
And then we have this was kind of
Bloodward.
mentioned in the previous chapter also, but yeah, Harry's just like I have no idea how I would have gotten through all this homework if Hermione hadn't been helping with it, because I've got all this stuff and I also have to do all the Quidditch practice.
I can't remember if we've mentioned this in the podcast yet, but we discovered between ourselves a couple months ago just the sheer discrepancy in how homework works between the US and the UK.
I think we've talked about it.
Okay. But basically there's a lot less of it here. It's you usually don't get it every day. It's definitely not set for like, you know, the next day or even in a couple days. A week is like the standard or like the minimum. So yeah, I don't know. It's possible that like maybe things used to be different and Rowling's basing it off of her own experiences with that. Maybe she got a lot more homework than kids do nowadays. I don't know.
Yeah, it could also just be the exaggeration of like, oh, I have so much homework to do, and it's like a half hour. But yeah, it's just it stood out to me as like this is first year. I'm surprised they're getting that much work. But then I realized that Harry is a known procrastinator, which I mean, same. So it's probably just, you know, he's not wanting to do it until the last minute, and then it's like, oh my god, I have so much work and the Quidditch practice. And then it also establishes, like, in his free time, he's been reading Quidditch through the ages. It's like, okay. But, either way, just notice that.
Yep.
So now we're getting into stupid...
More Quidditch shit.
Yeah, more stupid Quidditch shit. So,
they mentioned that there are 700 ways to foul, and that all of these happened in a single match in 1473. One, this sport is pretty fucking old. Like, I think most sports are actually not that old, but I might be wrong. Anyway, ignoring that.
The World Cup in 1473 was apparently the first ever.
Oh, okay. Good. But I have to imagine that after the first, like, 200 or 300, they just started doing them on purpose to set a record, because...
Probably.
Jesus fucking Christ, how else would this have happened?
So I had...
You know with 700, there's gotta be some really obscure ones in there, right?
So I had to look this one up. I have my book right here, Quidditch Through the Ages.
Okay.
For anybody who doesn't know, there's a few books that were written for charity. They're, like, really short. There's Quidditch Through the Ages, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and Tales of Beetle the Bard. So, in the section for fouls, it says, rules are, of course, made to be broken. 700 Quidditch fouls are listed in the Department of Magical Games and Sports Records, and all of them are known to have occurred during the final of the first ever World Cup in 1473. The full list of these fouls, however, has never been available to the wizarding public. It is the department's view that witchers and wizards who see the list might get ideas. I was fortunate enough to gain access to the documents relating to these fouls while researching this book, and can confirm that no public good can come of their publication. 90% of the fouls listed are, in any case, impossible as long as the ban on using wands against the opposing team is upheld. This ban was imposed in 1538. Of the remaining 10%, it is safe to say that most would not occur to even the dirtiest player. For example, setting fire to an opponent's broomtail, attacking an opponent's broom with a club, attacking an opponent with an axe.
Okay.
And then there's a list of some common fouls. My favorite is cobbing, excessive use of elbows towards opponents.
Yeah. I think, I'm trying to think now. I guess this must have just been, like, because it was the first World Cup and this was, like, a prestigious thing to win. And these teams were just going all out and playing completely dirty, just fucking throwing whatever they could, and happened to hit all 700 fouls. It's possible that there used to be far less fouls, and they just ended up creating new ones through their stupid, dirty tricks.
Well, yeah, there's no rule that says that a dog can't play basketball, and so now we got to create one. And so this match, it's like, well, we didn't have a rule that said that you couldn't, like, summon an eagle to, like, rip the opponent's eyes out, but I guess we gotta make one now. It's like...
Oh my god.
Good shit.
When talking about more just strange Quidditch phenomena, there's also how apparently one time a referee was like apparated to the Sahara Desert. And I'm like, okay, presumably this referee is an adult. Could they not have just apparated away? Like,
I mean, it didn't say that they didn't, to be fair. It just says...
it said that they were discovered in the Sahara Desert months later, which means they were there for several months.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
So I guess they must just have not been able to apparate, which is weird because, like, it seems like teaching apparition is like a standard thing.
Well, it's like a driver's license. Like, most people are probably going to get it, but maybe not everybody. But yeah, that is weird, though. I guess it's probably, once again, early installment where it's just like, you know...
somebody would, like, you know, use some kind of divination to determine where they were, like, immediately, and then go rescue them.
Yeah, maybe. And apparently multiple occasions this happened where people end up in the Sahara Desert specifically. But big place. Not going to be able to pinpoint them.
I guess it's just from people...
Also, what is... Okay, so hold on. I don't know if there's a known spell that causes other people to teleport. So what I have to imagine now is, like, somebody's creating a port key of, like, yeah, this thing, whoever touches this thing next is going to go into the middle of the desert, and they make it on just, like, a tomato, and then they just chuck it at the ref, and the refs just, boom, they're gone. It's like...
That's amazing. But yeah, so you mentioned here how they're like, oh no, we should hide Hermione's flame, and they're worried they're going to get in trouble for it. I don't think they necessarily have to. I just think maybe they don't exactly know whether or not this is like a thing they could get in trouble for because it's using magic outside of class or whatever.
Yeah, they do say no magic in the halls, but yeah, it's just this bit where I also just love this image. The three of them were out in the freezing courtyard during break. She had conjured them a bright blue fire that could be carried around in a jam jar. They were standing with their backs to it, getting warm. So it's like, I'm just imagining they have this thing on like a pedestal near a wall, and they're just kind of like all standing around this thing facing away, like in a semicircle, having a conversation, just looking completely stupid. And I love that image.
That just reminds me of one time, it was either during a break or like a PE where we weren't doing much. We were like out in the field, and I was sitting around with my friend Charlie, and it was because it was in the middle of a field, we had nowhere to like rest our backs, so we just decided to sit back to back and use each other's backs as like a mutual support. And just have a conversation like that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just weird scene. And so yeah, Snape comes by and they're like, oh no, we can't let him see it. So they move closer to block it. And
he's
then,
like, you can't have a book outside of the building.
Yeah, he notices that they look guilty, which they do, but I don't know if it's warranted. And then he's just like, what's that? And he's like, Quidditch through the ages. He's like, can't have library books out of school, 5 points. And Harry later says, like, he just made that rule up. And I'm wondering if he actually did.
I am wondering too.
So, yeah.
You can write that down on, like, a list of questions to ask JK if we ever get a chance.
Oh, yes. Is that actually a rule?
That and the other thing, there was something earlier that I was going to ask about. Like there's a lot in here that I'm wondering about, but there was one thing in particular that I was...
How did they know that he was wearing beaver skin boots?
No, it wasn't that. It was something else. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah, and then, okay, so let's suppose that taking a library book out of the school is, like, a punishable offense. 5 points from Gryffindor. The same penalty that Hermione got for allegedly trying to go off on her own and fight a troll and endanger herself. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, later we find out that you lose 50 points for being out of bed after dark, but whatever. Good. I mean, that's later in this same book. So, yeah, I've got a bit here. Just, the sentence out of context is so fucking bad. He pushed the door ajar and peered inside, and a horrible scene met his eyes. Snape and Filch were inside, alone. Snape was holding his robes above his knees. Can I see your legs?
Nah, Filch was performing fellatio.
Oh, of course. That's all he's good for. But
God.
yeah, no, just... Yeah, there's this whole bit, like, Snape confiscates the book, and then Harry's just like, gotta get that book back. And he's like...
Statistically, with how wide this fan base is and just how much fan fiction comes out of it, there's got to be at least one where that happens.
One Snape Filch, like, slash fic, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like, you know, he wants to get this book back, and he's just like, oh, well, maybe I can... He won't say no if I ask him around other, like, teachers, so he, like, goes to find them in the staff room, and then this is just going on, and, like, so he's got, like, it's described as a mangled leg, so, like, the dog fucked him up, and why is Filch bandaging this leg? Like, he can... You'd think that if Snape can't magically fix it, yeah, go to Madame Pomfrey. Like,
that's weird. And then also, like, it's like, okay, maybe this is a secret he's keeping with Filch, but he's also fucking telling Filch, like, oh yeah, that dog fucked me up. And it's like, is this like... I almost suspected for a minute that, like, is this
Filch is in on it.
But do all the teachers know about the stone? Like, that feels like too...
Most of them do, because most of them set up protections against
That's true, yeah. But, like, would Filch know about it? Like, have Snape and Filch been established to be, like, buddies at this point? I mean, not yet, but is this a thing?
I'm pretty sure that's never a thing.
I guess Filch just knows about it. But then, again, the question comes back to, why does he need to bandage his leg? Why can't he go to Madame Pomfrey?
Yeah,
I guess because the hospital wing is too public, like there are students there sometimes, they wouldn't want rumors of his mangled leg to spread, I guess.
I don't know.
You think Madame Pomfrey could just treat him in private then? I don't know.
But, anyway, pointing out more stupid, useless bullshit here, just a line here of Harry saying, I'd bet my broomstick he let that troll in just to make a diversion. And so clearly this bet is why it got destroyed by the Whomping Willow 2 books later. And then we have the morning of the game. Everyone's trying to get Harry to eat, and Seamus is...
clearly Harry established a magically binding contract when he said that.
Of course. But yeah, Seamus is, in quotes, piling ketchup on sausages, which is... don't do it.
I mean, yeah, I would not do it like that. I'd put it off to the side.
I mean, I wouldn't put ketchup on a sausage anyway.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yes. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I have an entire paragraph copied down because I think I had like 3 things to say about it. So they get to the game.
Just read the whole thing first.
Yeah. Ron and Hermione joined Neville, Seamus, and Dean the West Ham fan up in the top row. As a surprise for Harry, they had painted a large banner on one of the sheets Scabbers had ruined. It said Potter for President, and Dean, who was good at drawing, had done a large Gryffindor lion underneath. Then Hermione had performed a tricky little charm so that the paint flashed different colors. So, most of this is, like, you know, perfectly innocuous. I love how the book is referring to him as Dean the West Ham fan, as if that's just his only known trait, which I guess in the British version is pretty much true because he just wasn't mentioned at the sorting at all. Right. Then one of the sheets Scabbers had ruined. We had never established that Scabbers was just ruining sheets. And B, this is a human turned into a rat. Why is he just fucking around ruining sheets? Like,
he's really gotten into the role of that.
And then as for Potter for President, I find that that's just a dumb phrase in general. Like, I guess it's got alliteration, but I don't know.
President of what? I was wondering that too.
And then it just mentions Dean, who was good at drawing, done this, like, drew this lion. And,
you mean
like,
Dean the West Ham fan?
Yes. So we know that he's a West Ham fan, and that he's good at drawing, and that he's black, and I think that's all we know.
Yeah.
But I seem to remember that possibly coming back at some point, where this is just like a known trait of his, that he's a good artist. I'll have to keep an eye out. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like a bunch of little things in a row. I'm like, okay, I gotta point out like all of this.
Right.
It's kind of stupid.
So then there's Wood's speech, which Fred and George mock because they already know it.
Yeah, he's just like, what was it? It's just like, this is it, the big one, or something. And the speech is like 3 sentences long, and they're like, we know his speech by heart. Okay, how impressive. But yeah, so
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's a lot of really young students.
yeah, so Oliver says here, this is the best team that Gryffindor's had in years. We're gonna win. I just know it. And I don't want to just say, like, as a broad statement that, like, younger players are going to be worse than older ones, because I'm sure there's going to be some exceptions. But on this team, we have Oliver Wood is in his 5th year. Fred, George, Angelina, and Alicia are in their 3rd year. Katie's in her 2nd, and then Harry in his 1st. Like, why do we have all these really young students on this team? For the Chasers, like, I can maybe understand it if, like, small and sleek makes you, like, faster. But, like, you'd think that Fred and George, like, even if they're supposed to be stocky or whatever, like, there's got to be older students that would be better for beaters, because they're supposed to kind of be...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Man, I don't know.
Like, it's just kind of weird. And I think, once again, the answer is probably just... Like, when writing the books, she wanted to put together this team that was going to stick around for most of the series and not have them be cycled out by new players all the time, so they just all had to be young by design.
I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
I mean, yeah, Quidditch comes up a lot throughout this series. Even in Half-Blood Prince, there's a little bit of Quidditch. And there's a lot of it in Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah, the one book that... Well, the only books that don't really have it come up at all are the 4th, and... Actually, no, the 4th has the cup, like the one that they go to. They don't have it at Hogwarts.
Yeah, but they don't have it at Hogwarts. And
yeah, so they have the World Cup, and then 7th, of course, they don't really have it. But it comes up a lot.
So that kind of makes sense.
I just wrote down here also, as they're going out onto the field, Harry sees the Potter for President banner and felt braver. I don't even have anything to make fun of for that. I just thought it was
before that, there's the part where where Wood is like, men, and then Katie corrects him, and women. He's like, yes, and women. And I was like, oh, okay, he like forgot that Katie was there. No, there's 3 women on the team.
Yeah, it's Angelina. Well, I mean, I didn't think...
Was he just being generic about it, or?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think he forgot that all 3 of the Chasers are girls.
Okay.
Also, it was Angelina that spoke up.
Oh yeah, I just can't tell them apart, them women folk,
Yeah. I'm trying to think here. Of the Chasers, like, we see a bit more of Angelina in the later books. Like, she does show up and do stuff occasionally. Katie, I think, only is ever notable for being the one that gets cursed by the necklace in Half-Blood Prince.
Yes.
And I don't think Alicia ever really does anything. I can't think of any instance where she does, so I'll once again just have to keep an eye out. Spinnet.
Oh, I do remember the name vaguely. Okay. So yeah, then we have another note from you.
Yeah, so I had a lot here. So I think we only see the names of like 3 of the Slytherin team members here. There's Marcus Flint is the captain. I think he's one of the Chasers. There's Adrian Pusey.
Oh, so the keeper isn't always the captain?
Right, because Harry becomes captain eventually, and he's Seeker, and Angelina's captain at one point. But anyway, so yeah, there's an Adrian Pusey who, like, and both of these characters get mentioned in later books during the Quidditch matches. Then there's one who is just called Bletchley with no first name given. He's apparently apparently his first name is Miles. He shows up later as well, and he's also a 3rd year at highest because we see him in later books, and so I guess Gryffindor's not the only one with all the young players on it. Mm-hmm. And when I do this, I usually just Control F their names and see like if they pop up in the book again. There's a Ministry employee that is mentioned offhand by, I think it was Arthur Weasley in Deathly Hallows, who's also just Bletchley, so it could be his dad or something. Relation. Yeah. And there is one character that is actually a one-off, and it is Terence Higgs, the Slytherin Seeker, because in the next year... He gets
replaced with Malfoy next book.
Yeah. And what was it that I sent you about this? It was... He got, like, miscast, Yeah.
Yeah,
Here we
you
go.
got
Terence
this
Higgs was portrayed by Will Theakston, but the credits incorrectly stated that he was played by Scott Fern, Fearn, and his name was misspelled as Fern. So
It's
they
just
got the wrong
real
actor,
comedy
and they
occurrence,
spelled his name wrong. Like,
Who did Scott Fern play somebody?
maybe they got them switched up. I didn't actually check.
No, I'm interested.
All right.
Apparently he plays Adrian Pusey.
What important characters. Oh yeah. So here's the part that chain, like the couple sentences that were added between books. Where was it? Oh, it's skipping ahead slightly, but yeah, you pointed out Ron knows a little bit about football from Dean. So the differences here are in the British version, it's Dean is calling for a red card. He says, "This isn't football, Dean," Ron reminded him. "You can't send people off in Quidditch. And what's a red card?" In the American version, it's, "What are you talking about, Dean?" said Ron. "Red card," said Dean furiously. "In soccer, you get shown the red card and you're out of the game." "But this isn't soccer, Dean," Ron reminded him. So basically it's just they're explaining what a red card is, because we don't really care about
I
soccer
guess it's
as much
less
here.
familiar over there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, yellow card and red card is well known here. Like, I don't play football, and even I know about it.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about football, and I know about it. So anyway,
I don't know what a yellow card is, but anyway.
yellow card is basically a warning. Red card is you're out of the game.
Okay.
The rest of it.
So I've been reading a lot here. You have a couple things.
Okay. Yeah. So we get some inconsistent perspective here again.
Couple times, yeah.
A couple times, yeah. We get it with Ron because this is this conversation between Ron and Dean is, not something Harry can hear. And then the stuff with Lee Jordan, it's probably just being heard through like whatever the charm is that amplifies your voice.
Yeah.
But then we have the whole thing with Hermione. This is probably the most well-known instance of like a change in perspective in the books. It's the one that I first heard about, like people talking about.
Yeah.
Where she goes up to Snape and hits him with a fire spell and then bottles it up again. I do like how they took the time to put in, like, she bumped Quirrell along the way. Like, it's a nice little detail to to notice if you know what's really going on.
I also like this weird little signature spell that she has going on with this blue fire. I think she uses it against the Devil's Snare also, and
Okay.
I think they use it when they're camping in Deathly Hallows. That's another thing we'll just have to kind of look out for.
Okay. Is there anything special about the blue fire?
I don't think they ever explain anything about it, but apparently it is able to go in and out of a bottle easily, so it's definitely not normal fire.
Well, I mean, that's how blue fire works in fucking Oot, so...
Oh god, it is.
That's all I could think of.
I didn't even make that connection. That's weird.
So yeah, and for all we know, this like change in perspective where we're briefly not shown Harry's perspective could be when he was temporarily teleported away to the mobile game.
What do you mean by that?
This is something I discovered while just reading stuff on the wiki earlier. I was trying to look up Lee Jordan, because I'm not sure like what year he was in. I think he's a third year.
Yeah, same as Fred and George.
And it mentioned how he was one of the Findables during the Calamity. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I look at it, and it's like the Calamity is an event that occurred in the Wizarding World during the 2010s and 2020s, where several important like Muggle people and objects and places were teleported out of like, sorry, did I say Muggle? I meant where several famous wizarding people and places and objects from across the ages were suddenly transported through space and time to places where Muggles could find them.
Oh my God.
And the Ministry had like a massive crisis where they were trying to retrieve these things, which they called, it's either findables or foundables, and return them to their normal time. Which is why, for example, there was a young Dumbledore alongside, Harry in his Quidditch robes. That was like the example he gave. And basically, this is just the plot / like excuse for what's going on in Harry Potter Wizards Unite, which is a mobile game. I guess it's just like an AR thing or something like that, where you
like
go
Pokemon
around and
Go.
find things. Yeah, I think it's like you go around and find things from the Wizarding World, or like Minecraft Earth or something.
There was actually there were a couple times where me, Martin, and Joel would actually like go out and walk the streets like at evening, and he was playing like Joel was playing Pokemon Go, and Martin was playing some Harry Potter game, and was having to like hatch eggs, except the eggs were like, oh god, what the hell were they? It was like it was. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't remember what the hell they were. It's like they weren't actually eggs, but it was treated like hatching eggs in Pokemon, and you would just get like weird wizarding items out of them. And I had never really understood what the point of that game was, but yeah, that's probably this one.
Yeah, I find it really funny because the example specifically given, one of them is Harry in his Quidditch robes, and here we get a shift away from Harry's perspective temporarily while he's fucking around on his broomstick, getting like swerved around.
Yeah.
While he's in his Quidditch robes, and I'm like, maybe this is when he got teleported to the fucking. And they're just like, yeah, and then after they're found, they're teleported back to their original time and place with no memory of what happened. And I'm like, oh, how convenient.
That's amazing.
Anyway, sorry, it's a stupid tangent.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I like the transported across space and time. Isn't that one of the descriptions used for like a Pokemon's like obtained location when it's like gone through several generations?
Oh yeah, it's like traveled through space and time. I think you're right. It's really good.
I never remember if there's a special one for stuff that started in Ruby and Sapphire and went up to the remakes.
No, but you can take it to the Game Freak office and they'll give you a special certificate for it.
Oh, okay.
In ORAS.
Because, yeah, I felt like it should have been, like, returned home after a long trip through time and space, so that would have been, like, kind of cool. But,
oh, then it might be. I'm not sure.
Anyways, see, I had to point out here that Lee Jordan is just, like, the best part about Quidditch, because he just kind of adds personality to what's going on.
Yeah.
I
always like
glad
his
that he's
antics
there.
and his dynamic with McGonagall.
Yeah. Nothing really too crazy going on in this game. There was one bit where, like, Harry's going after the Snitch, and Flint just kind of, like, gets in the way, which doesn't even sound like it's that bad of a foul, but, like, everyone's freaking out over it, and he's just like, he keeps calling Flint a cheater, and McGonagall's like, Jordan, I swear to God. And he's just like, well...
Let me see.
He's just like, well, anyways, the Slytherin keeper nearly killed Harry, which I'm sure could have happened to anybody, and it's like... What are you looking for?
I'm trying to see, because when I read it, I seemed to be like, oh, dude fucking, like, rammed into him or something, no?
It might have been. I guess I'm a little unclear on, like, what's actually allowed in this game. Because it seems weird that, so I checked. The Bludgers are 10 inches...
Wham! A roar of rage echoed from the Gryffindors below. Marcus Flint had blocked Harry on purpose, and Harry's broom span off course, Harry holding on for dear life. So he fucking rammed into him.
By the way, that's another change. Yours says span, mine says spun.
Oh, I see.
Important change. But yeah, it's like... I find it weird what's allowed in this game, because I checked, and Bludgers are 10 inches wide and made of solid iron. And the wiki said that they would weigh about 150 pounds. So these things are just flying around and fucking, like, bashing people in the skull. And this is just part of the game. But if you ram into another player, oh, can't do that.
I mean, in this game, someone gets whacked in the back of the head with one, and they don't even get, like, their skull cracked or anything. So I assume there's...
Wizards are made of sterner stuff.
That, or something about the enchantment on them makes them, despite their craziness, like, actually not as heavy as just throwing a metal ball at someone. That reminds me of a kind of a, like, shitty story that when we were doing shot put in PE one time, our teacher, probably just to scare us, told us this story about a school up north where they, like, some kids were, like, joking around with it, and one of the kids, like, threw the shot put ball up and to the side and jokingly was like, heads, to indicate to someone to do a header, like in football.
Yeah.
And then apparently one of his friends actually did try to header it, and the thing just fucking bashed his skull in and he died. I don't think that's true, though. I think our teacher just told us that to scare us.
Reminds me of a story I was taught in driver's ed where they said that like somebody tried to like hit the brakes so suddenly because there was like a dog in their way or something. They hit the brakes so hard that their leg bone went through the bottom of their foot. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, that doesn't sound real. But yeah, so back to Harry having problems with his broomstick because Quirrell is trying to jinx him. By the way, incredibly stupid place and time for Voldemort to try to assassinate Harry, but okay. Because there's fucking people all around him.
I was about to make a alone and unprotected reference, but he's not alone. So, yeah.
But yeah, so then they're like, nothing can interfere with a broomstick except powerful dark magic. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's
powerful ass enchantments are they putting on these brooms?
Yes, it's specifically Hagrid. They're just like, did somebody mess up? Like, did they mess up his broom when he rammed into him? And he's just like, no kid could have done that. This is powerful dark magic. Nothing else can interfere with a Nimbus 2000. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just made a note of, they keep saying that Harry is clambering onto his broom. Odd choice of word, but okay. Did you have anything else before the game ends?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so yeah, there's this whole bit of he's trying to get, like, bucked off the broom, and Hermione runs across the entire field. So, like, in the movie, these stands are, like, these giant isolated towers. I guess, like, the way it's supposed to be here is it's probably just a big ring, because otherwise I don't know how she's getting around.
Well, the towers have, like, things connecting them, don't they? Lower down? Could you not, like, descend some steps and then go across
probably.
a corridor or something?
I guess so, yeah. But yeah, so, like, there's that whole bit, and then Harry is, like, the spell is ended or whatever. And, let me find the actual wording here, because I found it kind of hilarious. It's, yeah, up in the air, Harry was suddenly able to clamber back onto his broom. Neville, you can look, Ron said. Neville had been sobbing into Hagrid's jacket for the last 5 minutes. Harry was speeding towards the ground when the crowd saw him clap his hand to his mouth as though he was about to be sick. He hit the field on all fours, coughed, and something gold fell out of his hand. Game's over. It's like, the fuck? It was so abrupt. Like,
I mean,
it's
yeah, but it ends when you catch the snitch, right?
I know, but it was hilarious because, like, you know, the spell ends and Harry's just like gets the thing and it's done. And
Yeah.
this whole
Good luck, I guess.
yeah, and this whole thing about him like nearly swallowing the snitch. Do you know the
Comes up again
significance of
later.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he tries to open the thing later at Deathly Hallows and it doesn't work until he puts it to his lips because that's where it touched his skin first, and that's
Right.
also why like snitches are always handled with gloves until they're being used in a match because
Which
they're
was never
literally-
established until book 7, but yes.
right, but they're basically programmed to open up at the touch like at the exact same touch that is the first touch they ever got, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's for like dispute over who caught it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, in an early draft of this book, Hedwig catches the snitch for him.
Oh.
Because she knew that, like, the way that it was caught had to be, like, unusual so that they could, like, call back to it later on. But I imagine, like, she wrote it this way, and then it's like, no, this is really stupid. Why would this be allowed? And so they changed that. And then just for good riddance, they killed off Hedwig. But
Okay, so right. So yeah, I mean, I guess I do wonder with things like this that come up way later, like presumably she had at least some idea of like the ending of the book with the Horcruxes and you know, even the Deathly Hallows and stuff.
Horcruxes were apparently supposed to be introduced in book 2 originally.
Yeah, I think I've heard about that. But it is kind of weird to me that she's writing this first book and she's like, yeah, this golden snitch just has the fucking resurrection stone inside it. Like,
well, not
why?
yet, but Dumbledore puts it in there.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Because the stone was on the Peveril
Wait,
ring.
how did he open
And-
it? Oh, right, that's true. How did he open it later then?
Well, when you said that, like, touching the snitch causes it to open, I don't know if that's true. They have what's called a flesh memory, which means that like they do remember who first touched them, but I don't know if it's ever established if that makes them open. I figured the whole thing of it opening up and having the ring inside was Dumbledore enchanting it.
I see. Just tying it to, like, the flesh memory function.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, because the ring is... Yeah, the Resurrection Stone is part of the ring that wasn't even discovered until Harry's 6th year anyway.
True. So, okay, I forgot about that part.
Right. Anyways, so yeah, the game ends extremely abruptly. They pointed out that the final score was... So Gryffindor had 170, Slytherin had 60. So if you get rid of the 150 gotten from catching the snitch, it was 20-60 with Slytherin leading. And 50 of those points were from Flint just repeatedly throwing the ball through the hoop while everyone else was distracted by Harry, which I just find hilarious.
I do find that very funny, but to be fair, it probably wouldn't be against the rules. I mean, they're supposed to be focused on the sport.
Right. But I just love that visual, though. And it also makes me now question, like, I don't remember if we ever see this in the movie, and I've never played the, like, Quidditch video games.
Fun fact, actually, I mentioned that I grew up with the Harry Potter games. Actually, Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup was my first ever video game. I have not really gone back to that one and didn't play it very much. I probably played it like twice and then just gave up and moved on to like the second game I got, which was Chamber of Secrets, and that one I was much more fond of. But technically my first game ever was Quidditch World Cup.
Interesting. But yeah, I'm just wondering, like, when you throw the quaffle through the hoop, do you have to go get it, or does it like fly back? Because it just seems awkward if, like, you throw the thing and... I'm pretty
sure
like,
the quaffle is normal, right? Like, it doesn't... I assume he had to have thrown it to somebody, or maybe he swooped down and caught it and then flew up again and threw it.
Because there's not supposed to be anybody behind the hoops. Like, the keeper floats in front of them as a goalie, but, like, you throw it through it, and then that's it. Like, either somebody has to, like, chase after it and bring it back into play, or the thing just, like, magically comes back, and I don't know if it's ever explained.
Yeah, I'd be curious to find out.
Because I do think it's pretty much a normal ball. I was looking it up earlier because I was trying to see if there was any reasoning behind the names of the quaffle and the bludger, and I couldn't really find anything. But bludgers used to be called Bludgers, but then it got like corrupted over time. But I think it's enchanted to fall more slowly than it should, just to make it easier to catch. But other than that, I think it's normal. So, I don't know.
So it's sort of like playing volleyball with a balloon.
With rubber chickens on a trampoline.
what was it? Like the 100 toy game?
50 toy game. Different from the rubber chicken balloon trampoline volleyball game, but related.
So yeah. And then Hagrid runs his mouth within... I mean, the game's over. They're having tea with Hagrid or whatever it was. And he fucking runs his mouth like twice within the span of 5 minutes. And he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, because, like, you know, they're celebrating the end of the game and everything. And it's like, it was Snape. He was the one who was causing the problems. Because, like, we saw he was like, staring at Harry the whole time. And he's just like, oh, no, he didn't. He's the one protecting it. And nobody can get past Fluffy. Oh, wait, I shouldn't have said that. Well, anyway, this is all between Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel. Oh, shit, I shouldn't have said that either. It's like, Hagrid, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But it's funny, though, because he doesn't actually say, oh, I shouldn't have said that here. But, like, he says that all the time in the movie.
Yeah. It's good, though.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a convenient source of...
It's just a little catchphrase.
Oh, yeah. We were making two different points, but that's fine.
Oh, what was yours? I didn't even...
Well, I was saying it's a convenient way to move the plot forward to have this character that just can't keep their mouth shut.
Right. And that brings us to the end of the chapter, and we have not gone for 2 hours this time.
Yeah.
Did you find any comments that were not part of the 50 that were...
Let me open it up. Somebody suggested that they said they heard that Hogwarts has so few students at the moment because of all the people that were killed in the original Wizarding War with Voldemort, and I guess that, you know, fewer of them would have had kids if they were close to, like, James and Lily's age. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if anything, there should be like a baby boom in like the next couple years because the war had
Right.
ended at that point. So yeah, I
Hmm.
guess Harry would be from that age when, yeah, that makes sense.
Just before it started to do that, yeah. Um, Somebody mentioned that Harry. Oh, they said this came up in a previous episode, but somebody said that Harry's remarkably well adjusted given all of the abuse he went through, and yeah, it continues to show. He's it's almost like it's actually kind of easy to forget that that stuff even happened now that you're like, you know, 11 chapters into the book, and most of it has been at Hogwarts with
Yeah,
this
the
fun stuff.
Dursley sections of these books are just kind of like their own beast entirely. It's like they
Yeah,
happen, they
whenever you
suck,
have to
and then you
return
get
to it,
away from them, and it's like, okay, we're done.
right. It's always kind of depressing when you have to go back to it and you're like, oh yeah, it sucks. Somebody did some maths here and determined that given 10 to 20 students per house per year, the chance of being a wizard are around 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 20,000. And there are between 3,500 and 7,000 wizards total in the UK.
I never
I don't
really
know if
had
that
a,
sounds
I never really
accurate,
had a
but
sense of how uncommon they were supposed to be. That's a lot lower than I thought, but
yeah, I don't know.
I guess that stands to reason.
Mm. Okay. That's pretty much it in terms of how much that caught my eye personally.
Okay. So what do we got next? We have the Mirror of Erised.
Nicholas Flamel.
Oh boy, the chapter that could have been solved with Google. All right, I assume we're probably doing both of them. I didn't see how many
Yeah,
pages.
it'll only be 24 pages, so
Okay, might as
I'll
well.
take us very long. All right, thanks for listening.
See you next time for skipping those chapters entirely.
Yes, clearly.
End.